Hello and welcome back to another episode of Rent Money. Rent was paid last week, and now we're looking forward to week 2 of the college football season. A lot happened in week 1. We learned a little bit more about some teams, learned a little bit less about others, facing some FCS teams. But, the learning's just going to keep coming. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? Are you smarter than Vegas? Let's find out. But before we get to all of that, breaking down a little bit of the week 1 recap, some Heisman forward-looking bets, and then week 3 slate. We have a new presenting sponsor today, presented by Texas Pete. Texas Pete procured this one, and we're really proud of him. I don't even know who it is yet. Let us hear it, Pete.
Hey there, folks. Are you tired of dealing with those uncomfortable, scratchy toilet paper moments? Say goodbye to the chafe and hello to comfort with Dude Wipes, the ultimate game changer for your bathroom routine. Dude Wipes are here to bring you the cleanest, most refreshing experience possible. Infused with natural aloe and vitamin E, they're designed to pamper your behind and leave you feeling fresh and clean all day long. Plus, they're flushable and biodegradable, so you can feel good about doing right by the planet while you're at it. Whether you're at home or on the go, Dude Wipes are perfect for every situation. Toss them in your gym bag, keep a pack in the car, emergency poop kit, or stash them in your desk drawer, wherever you need a quick cleanup or a moment of refreshment. So if you're ready to upgrade from basic toilet paper to a new level of cleanliness and comfort, grab some Dude Wipes today, because your behind deserves the best, and with Dude Wipes, you're always ahead of the game. Insert personal endorsement here. I'll tell you guys what, I traveled to the beach this past weekend, absolutely tossed a bag of Dude Wipes in my bag. Won't travel without them. I won't do it. It's a little slice of comfort and refreshment wherever you may go. Thank you to Dude Wipes for partnering with us this college football season.
Hell yeah, Dude Wipes. Toilet time, toilet talk, not always something that's easy to get across. Let's just say it's not always dinner conversation. And because of that, I feel like toilet technology has really fell behind. Look at the iPhone compared to the phones that people were using 30 years ago. I don't see any reason why our toilet paper shouldn't be the same, right? Why are we using the same stuff they used in the 60s? Continue to advance technology forward. That's what Dude's Wipes doing. Fully endorsed Dude's Wipes. Thank you very much, Texas Pete. Chisholm?
How we living?
Are you ready for week 3? Week 2?
Episode 3, week 2. I mean, having
week
week
0's got me in a freaking in the toilet. I'm spinning. Let's do it. All right, boys. We all got our Hawks gear on. Adam's wearing a "You Break It, You Own It" and a cowboy hat. And Adam, golly, great week out of you last week. You provided the muscle. You've been in the gym. 11, 3, and 1. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. He had 15 plays last week. Myself, running back Jones, 3 and 2. Not terrible. And then we got Texas Pete lagging behind, 2 and 1. Texas Pete, I'm sure we'll get to it later as we look forward to next week, maybe some learnings. But before we get to that, Adam, Chisholm, why don't you just do a little self-basting, dude? You're a rack of ribs. Take yourself out of the oven, lather some more sauce up on there, and just tell us how you're feeling.
Dude, I mean, it's an incredible feeling to be able to see the board, but to feel the board, that's a different feeling, right? That's something that comes for an average man such as myself once in a blue moon, right? And I'm not a big Belgian wheat guy by any means, but I tell you what, Jack, last week we saw it, we felt it, we had the little crystal ball. The only plays that really missed were
why don't you just walk us
bad
through
ones.
Hey, walk us through what you're most excited about first, because this can kind of maybe lead into some of these games that we're all watching too.
Well, I think it goes without saying, when you hit a triple dipper, in general, it's just an immaculate feeling, right? But when it's your team, right, on the road, week 1 at Kyle Field, everybody, and by everybody I mean Texas Pete, doubting, Vegas doubted, Texas Pete in Carolina doubted, but old Chisholm here in Texas, he knew. I just knew it. I mean, they don't make Peacock Hard Knocks spin-off series for nothing. They don't do that for any team. They do that for teams that go on the road and they win week 1. They cover that spread and they win outright and they hold their opponent to
They do that for
13
teams that are
points or
so
less.
far up NBC's ass They don't even know where they are. Yeah, I mean,
home.
A&M had a relatively disappointing showing. I think they threw a couple of bad interceptions. Those drives don't get stalled with those picks. It could go anyway. It was a great game, though. I really can't complain. That's all you're asking for the primetime game.
It was
Fun one to watch.
so cool.
Sad to see it didn't go my way, but, great showing for Notre Dame, and I think they got their eyes circled on the playoffs now.
I was not somebody who bet on this game. As two guys that did, have you heard Connor Weigman talk before? Because
No.
after the game, there's the viral clip, him
Still
with
haven't.
Oz the Mentalist. Did you see this, Texas Pete?
No, but love that guy.
Oz the Mentalist, yeah, absolute freak show. Chris Angel, David Blaine, Oz the Mentalist, some of the best of our generation. But golly, I mean, it was just a red flag. Old Chisholm, any thoughts coming out of this video to just make you feel even more happy about the way you
Dude, I was like, dude, you're from Cypress, Texas. Like, this is not how anyone talks there, let alone, people with your parents, net worth and income, and the fact that you're a goddamn 5-star recruit, dual sport athlete whose main love is baseball, right? Find me a white baseball player that talks like that, and I'll tell you that he's actually not white, he's Hispanic. That's the only thing that I know to be true. That's the only thing that is true. We're standing in the middle of Austin, right? And somebody walks up to me and starts talking like that. Not only do I respect you less, but I don't want to hear you talk ever again, right? Like that's kind of the end of the conversation, because it's not like it's intellectual things coming out of his mouth, but then with the tonality and just the lack of pronunciation, upsetting.
There was a nice video of him as well, kind of just a little bit of a hype video during high school football. He's wearing boots. He's on the farm, talking with a completely different voice. It just doesn't feel like a guy that's comfortable in his own skin, and that's not who you need leading these Aggies right here. The 12th man, say what you will about him, but they deserved better on Saturday night than what they saw. Notre Dame, on the other hand, though, the defense looked as good as advertised. Riley Leonard managed the game. And now they're in probably pole position to make the playoffs. We talked a little bit about this earlier. I think they'd have to drop 2 games and get blown out by USC. If you're looking forward on their schedule, USC and Florida State were kind of their 2 remaining opponents that, people would circle at the beginning of the season. Florida State, not one of those teams any longer. I think their over-under win total is now at 5.5. We talked about DJU on this program multiple times, actually, and expressed some of our doubts and concerns. They're one of the few teams now that are 2 games in, 0-2. Tough start for a team that had playoff aspirations, ACC title aspirations. Just any general thoughts around the Florida State Seminoles?
Yeah, I got regrettably a Florida State ACC championship ticket that I'm just going to have to sit at for the next 5.5 months. Not really looking forward to that, but shout out to the Boston College Eagles for their first top 10 win in the past decade. So shout out Bill O'Brien coming in, turning the program around week 1. Can't draw it up better than that. Yeah.
AK, I mean, I think they have to be so far the biggest disappointment of the season. Just if you're a Seminole, just tie 2 bricks to your feet and wade out into the water.
You saw that one guy who tweeted that if they lost to Boston College, he was gonna eat shit out of a red Solo cup with a spoon or something. Just straight up deleted his account. Like, this guy had tens of thousands of followers. He had spent years curating, building a community of Seminoles fans, and it all went to shit, literally, because this guy, you got to know when to call your pinky games. I think this is something you got to give Big Cat credit for, right? I don't like talking about other pods, but, game respects game.
Here's what I will say. Maybe throughout the season, along different points, we can maybe make some bets, fire something off on the Rip Money burner about, doing this or that. But I'll tell you one thing. When it comes to shitting, the only thing our shit touches is Dude Wipes.
100%. Thank you to Dude Wipes for being a sponsor.
All right,
thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you to Dude Wipes for finally creating a product worthy of touching my ass, right? All of these toiletries products, they're definitely marketed towards women. It's nice to be a man and to have wipes made for men, right? You don't see that anymore.
If we're talking touching ass, hopefully we can get a Hanes sponsor soon too. No free ads, but my boys. All right, Adam, let's go. Come on. You're the Unreal Week. Keep giving it to us. I feel like you're patting your shoulder a little lightly right now. Just
I mean,
2 hands, double pat. Let us just
so
talk us through how you're feeling.
let's just whip through this quick, right? Let's start with the 3 losses in the push. The push was all because of a man named Dragan, Dragan, first name, kicker for the University of Minnesota. Not only did he miss a game-winning field goal opening the season at home, Big Ten versus the ACC, we had talked about this, right? Spent a good amount of time last week, just not even really that close. It was like a moment where you're like, oh, it's going in, curve to the right, we were fucked, but we still got the push. And then they launched fireworks, which, that's almost as embarrassing as them wearing the Cooper DeJean mockery gold t-shirts. I don't know if you saw those t-shirts, Jack, but it's a gold out apparently for the game, and on the back of these shirts, it's just the full NCAA ruling of what constitutes a fair catch. And it's like, you guys, you're not playing Iowa this week, and also you fucking lost the game. So honestly, that's 0 for 5, right? There was only 2 at bats, and somehow you went 0 for 5. But the 3 losses were
Minnesota football. They're a Midwestern state, yet they only have one Division I football team, and they can't field a good one each year. They just got too many lakes. I heard a stat the other week: 11,800 lakes over an acre. Most
I thought it was
in the
10,000.
Well, they need to
Finding
update
new
the
lakes
graphic.
every week. Every week, new lake.
These kids are spending too much time wakeboarding, not enough time pushing sleds, and you can tell.
New lake just dropped. Richardson's are probably just building them. But
Go ahead.
I was going to say that just quickly, the losses, LSU, disgusting. I can't believe that I thought Brian Kelly was a better coach than Lincoln Riley in a game that was all offense, next to no defense. It was just cakewalk central.
Well, I'll
Also
put a hand up.
special.
I had the over, and that did not hit, so it wasn't all offense. One of my worst bets of the years already can tell. Just sucked into the media hype circle. That is the primetime Sunday game. 2 new offensive coordinators, 2 new defensive coordinators, and new quarterbacks. Hand up, bad bet. Proceed.
We're going to get through it. Brian Kelly's, he's a CEO. He's not a coach, right? This guy would be an incredible athletic director. He's going to raise you some funds. He's not going to win you the big games. And he's proven that time and time again through pretty much anything post Cincinnati in his career. But the other one, we drank the Kool-Aid in Morgantown. That did not pay off. Drew Aller actually looked good, which was almost as shocking as Cade McNamara's second half. Go Hawks. We'll get to that later. I think the other big one that I missed, the only other one that I missed, it was a smaller play that we had. I thought Gio Lopez and Major Applewhite were going to have the boys in South Alabama looking a little bit better against North Texas, the Mean Green out of Denton. Not only did they not cover the 5, but they got their backs blown out in the second half. That game had a little bit of a weather delay, if I'm not mistaken, similar to the West Virginia game. Just didn't go well. But if you want to talk wins, go check the Twitter. I don't really want to read through and
You're a stand-up guy. Reading through the losses.
Myself. I want to talk where we learned, right? And I think we can take away some big learning moments from each of those losses. Number one, we don't need to bet South Alabama probably, the rest of the year. We got excited. One of my early dynasties that I pulled out on College Football 25, we had the boys barking, but outside of that, not really a lot going on. I will say the other one that I ended up losing, I don't think I ended up throwing it. I pulled it off of the card, but I did read through Troy -9 against Nevada. They also actually lost straight up. That was a revenge pick for SMU. I'm all in on the Pony Express. That's just on me. I'll be better.
You cracked me up, Adam. I was giving you the floor to boast and brag, and you just went ahead and walked through your L's of Troy and South Alabama. That's a stand-up gentleman right there.
I'm an Irish Catholic through and through, Jack. What can I say?
One other game I really quickly wanted to touch on, and then we can kind of do a quick Heisman wrap around. Georgia versus Clemson. This is a game both Texas Pete and myself were on. We don't have to go maybe too into the picks. All Chisholm on it as well. But Georgia looks like Georgia. Where does Dabo Swinney go from here? Do you think the ACC is weak? I just want you guys to think about where do you see Clemson going the rest of the year? Obviously, teams are going to get blown out by Georgia and some of these other high-end teams, Ohio States, the former Alabamas of the world. But is it time to ring the bells? Because Cade Klubnik did not look like a D1 quarterback last week.
No, it did not look good for Clemson, especially being on their side last week. I thought it was too many points. I also did the idiotic move of buying the hook up to 14. Not a smart play in hindsight. Absolutely no positives to take away from that if you're the Clemson program. Granted, you are going up against defending national champions in Georgia who haven't lost a game in, I don't even know how.
Not defending, but regular season champs in some ways. They lost to Bam in the SEC
That's right.
last year.
That's right.
But
Sorry.
two of the last three, right? If I'm not mistaken, I could be off too. Who gives a
Yeah,
shit?
so it was not a great
40
showing
straight.
for Clemson nor Klubnik.
Yeah, 40 straight regular season.
Honestly don't know where Dabo goes from here. I think he's going to double down, or I guess he'd be like triple, quadruple down at this point, defending his system, defending his no transfer portal actions. But yeah,
He
not
probably
a
went
fun
to
week.
church on Sunday. That's probably what he did.
Absolutely. Win or lose.
All right, well, let's get into a little quick Heisman run through. We'll run through the odds. You guys just tell me when to stop. I do want to say that, it was against Akron, but Will Howard was really good last week, 3 touchdowns. Just wanted to say that. Okay. Dylan Gabriel, even after a slow start for Oregon, plus 850. Jackson Dart, 60-point plus performance for Ole Miss, plus 850. Cameron Ward, Miami.
Here we go.
Very fun game, plus 850. Carson Beck, plus 900. Jalen Milroe, plus 1,000. Quinn Ewers, plus 1,100. Nico, down in Tennessee, plus 1,400. Will Howard, plus 2,000. Miller Moss, plus 2,200. And Travis Hunter, plus 2,500. I'll stop there. Do any of those names or numbers scream out to you? We like to track the Heisman bets throughout the season because there is some of the most swing you'll ever see. The year Jaden won last year, Bo Nix went minus odds at one point, and then a week later he was plus 1,200. So there is a lot of arbitrage in this market.
Yeah, I really like what I saw out of Cam Ward in Miami. Playing in the swamp, you're on the road against a state rival. Absolutely shredded him up, had a ton of swagger and confidence while doing it. It was fun to watch. A little ballsy on his side, though. I don't know if you guys were watching the game, but there was a couple times that, especially in you could call it a rivalry game, he was like walking out of bounds at the sideline. Multiple times I saw defenders that absolutely could have lit him up. Would have been a cheap shot, kind of, but also he was still in play with the ball in his hand. So I don't know how you want to rule it, but he definitely did carry some confidence in his first, big game with them there. Going to be fun to watch. That's definitely the one I've circled and I'm going to be tracking these next coming weeks. And especially, I don't know what their schedule looks like, but, next time they play, a big time opponent. Yeah, so clean.
He was my guy, right? Preseason, I was like, this is probably the best value that you're going to get on the board. The amount of weapons that he has, the name Restrepo in and of itself, not only is it the greatest Nat Geo documentary about the Korengal Valley in Afghanistan, which at one point in time was the deadliest place in the world during the invasion of Afghanistan, but God damn it, the kid's a stud at wide receiver. He's got the little weird ear thing going on. Not quite full-blown wrestler, but like he takes his helmet off and you're like, he's kind of cute. Like he's just a little guy, right?
Is he an Italian-American hero with the last name Restrepo?
I thought it was Hispanic. Is Restrepo Italian?
Restrepo.
He's way too swagged out. He's way too swagged out to be Italian.
Okay.
I don't know. Italians can swag out. Give me a gold
They
chain
don't-
any day of the week.
Yeah, but they don't lean like a cholo.
I guess there's just different strokes for different folks. Okay,
Amen.
let's get to it. Week 3, week 2. Week 0's got me in a freaking spin cycle. All right.
Before
Week
you
2.
dive all the way in, Turner,
Yeah, Chisholm.
I do just want to say, one, Quinn Ewers kind of getting vultured a little bit week 1 with Arch coming in, taking away some of the production late in the game. But 2, how fucking good does Nico Iamaloba look for Tennessee?
I have Tennessee on my card. I want to talk about him. We'll get to Nico. He's circled There's just no way I don't see this guy in New York City when it comes to the Heisman finalists.
He's
High
what is he, a
pulled those.
redshirt freshman?
Maybe we'll just get into that game right now. Tennessee versus, technically, I think, at NC State. However, Texas Pete, the game is in Charlotte.
Yes, sir.
This should be a doozy. Are either of you guys on these games? I'm pulling up our notes.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely in. I'm all in on the Volunteers this year, dude. They're just such a fun team.
I am too. And, we saw Nico last year in the bowl game against Iowa. Didn't go Iowa's way by any means. And now we're seeing him kind of capitalize on that hype he built. Coming out, he was one of the first major NIL guys, too, that Tennessee's ever gotten. And somebody that maybe went a different route. He was pretty much the number one touted quarterback recruit. He could go wherever he wanted. And he basically said, just give me the biggest bag and take me to an SEC school in Tennessee. He said, Rocky Top, let's do it. The Vols are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 60.5. I mean, Grayson McCall on the other side didn't have his best week one. Chisholm, give us some muscle here.
Yeah, dude, I think this is going to be kind of just a dominating game by Tennessee. I spent a good chunk of time talking, just talking about James Pierce Jr. on the defensive side of the ball, but Nico has played 2 games. One of them, he just spread cheeks and shit all over the University of Iowa last year.
Dude Wipes not present.
Game. Yeah, Dude Wipes was not present, and Consent was not present either. That was depressing as hell to watch, but pretty much picked up right where he left off, right? Game 1 of the season. I think Dylan Sampson was one of the more impressive features in that game as well. He's a junior running back. 124 rushing yards for the kid.
They had 4 guys. They had 4 guys rushing over 40 yards there, 4-headed running backs. Deshaun Bishop seems like he's the number 2. I do want to give a mention to Khalifa Heath, just an all-time name. He's kind of the third guy, the 3-headed running backs, and then last guy was probably getting some scrub minutes. But anytime you got 4 guys over 40 with 7+ carries and you're scoring 69 points, yeah, let's hear it. Come on.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing too, right? You're playing FCS Chattanooga, great. You're a 41-point favorite, great. But they won by 66 as opposed to a North Carolina State team, Jack, that was 32.5-point favorites multiple times throughout that game. They were, I'm pretty sure, trailing outright. Like they kind of had to fight and scratch and claw their way for it, which bummed me out a little bit. I'm a fan of Grayson McCall. He was fun to watch at Coastal. I was wishing him, success at NC State. But they were allowing, it said 6.3 yards per carry to a team that was routinely blown out by FBS teams in the past few seasons. And you don't want to do that against a team that just last week had, how many guys did you just say, over 40 yards rushing? Dylan Sampson was balling out with 3 fucking scores of his own on top of 100+ yards. Like, just hammer the Vols on this one and potentially even lean the under. I don't think NC State's going to do much of anything in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on that sentiment. Give me the Vols -7.5. Might get cheeky with it, buy it down to 7, but for the official pick, we'll go 7.5 as is. Short drive through the Smokies from Knoxville to get here to Charlotte, about 3.5 hours. I expect them to travel well. Same goes for the Wolfpack and NC State from Raleigh-Durham, but I just think Nico, what's his last name? Iamaleava. Give it to me. Iamaleava.
He's sick.
Is that the love guru? I am also going to be on the Vols. I do think, this game was maybe more of a 4.5-point spread. Maybe if you look at it like a week ago or preseason. Obviously, North Carolina State, as mentioned, did not look their best. They do have a few players returning, but they're going to be missing safety Devin Boykin. Major out. He's probably the leader of that defense, along with the guy that plays the mic. I'm blanking on his name. He got called out in the first quarter last week for targeting. Maybe had an impact on that game. But I think there's maybe a little something murky in the waters, and I'm actually just going to take the Tennessee over in points, 34.5. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I don't really want to mess around with the spread too much, and I think that Nico is going to be in the high pulled offense. They run kind of a stack offense, 3 levels. Like think about Hyatt a couple years ago. They have one guy that's always going to be kind of taking the top off, and then some other guys running underneath. They're going to score more than 30. They're going to score 35 points plus. So over Tennessee, 34.5. All right, let's go to the biggest game of the week, taking place in Iowa City. All right, Iowa State. I mean, this is a game we all have circled. We're repping our gold and black here. Holy fucking shit. Nothing like Iowa City on a game day. I'll be in attendance. I'll be there. We're going to make the drive in from Chicago. Stoked. God, I'm just jacked to the tits. Can't say that enough. Iowa is 2.5-point favorites. And what's the over-under at now, Adams? At 35.5?
Did it drop again?
Yeah, 35.5. Last I saw.
35.5. Insane. I mean, we can all talk about this game for a little bit here. I mean, we love our hot guys, but this could be a play of the year for me. We'll get to it. What kind of emotions does the Cy-Hawk series elicit for you guys?
I'll kick this off as born and bred, corn-fed Iowan through and through. I may leave the state, but the state never leaves you, right? It is within you. It's within everything that we do. It is people. Over the top kindness, kind of edgy remarks, whether that be political, racial, maybe not racial. Like we're pretty, we're pretty welcoming out there. But I think the biggest thing about the state of Iowa is that this is it, right? This is all we have aside from the Iowa State dual wrestling meet, which is the intensity of that is absurd. If you haven't ever tuned in and been in Carver Hawkeye Arena for Iowa State, brother, you're missing out. That's just top tier entertainment for the state. But on this grand of a scale, when it's at Kinnick, there's something special about it. Like Trice is, oh, look at the hill, but Kinnick Stadium, you get the first quarter wave in there, just a fun little addition to it. The random speckles of the Cardinal red and gold. The gold typically blends in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's our Super Bowl as a state. It is the state fair. Iowa State wrestling. Maybe, the girls' state basketball tournament, high school, but then this, right? This is the mecca. This is the end all be all. Bragging rights, gambling rights. The state started cracking down on those a little bit for the players, I guess. But God, Jack, this is it.
Growing up, I went to a couple Iowa State games at Jack Trice back when it was even more of a high school stadium. They had the Four Hills. They've put a lot of effort and money into that stadium. Not many bad things to say about it now. It's a nice venue. But, my dad would take me to a few of those games. We wouldn't go to the Iowa games, though. There's a little bit more of a mean streak in the city. A little bit more of a nastiness, a little bit more of a dirt to it. Fees, Texas Pete, what can you say about maybe just the game day environment of Iowa City for a big rivalry week?
Yeah, so I was not a born and bred Iowan. I was adopted into the family when I left to go there for school. And during my tenure in Iowa City, I didn't know what it was like to lose to the Cyclones, and I'm hoping that trend continues this year. I believe we've won 8 out of the past 9. Don't want to say I'm the good luck charm, but here we are. I absolutely love Iowa State weekend. Love that it's early on in the season. You get the beautiful weather for the tailgates. You're going to come out there, early September, have a great time, kick some Cyclone ass, and see it through to the end. I'm going to go in. I'm sure we're all going to be on this here. 2.5 points. What are we doing here? Iowa favored 2.5 points, over under set at 35.5. I'm taking the Hawkeyes, and I'm going to double dip. Iowa, yes, they did put up 40 points last week against an FCS school in Illinois State. 34 of it coming in the second half. I think that people who are new to this Iowa football program don't really understand what tradition is. I think Kirk Ferentz being out week 1, back on the sidelines this week, there's something in those old bones that's just going to cause him to regress. So I'm going to be taking the under 35.5 as well.
We were fantasizing Kirk walking out in handcuffs, boom, breaking them open and leading the Hawkeyes out onto the field. How cool would that be? Never would do it, but it's funny to think about.
It was funny this past week. this past weekend, I got multiple congratulatory texts from my friends after they saw Iowa put up 40 points. I was proud of them. I mean, I'm pumped. Don't get me wrong. I'm not cheering against them. I've seen this a few times play out, and I'm not going to get fooled by it this early on in the season. But if I get proved wrong, so be it.
100%. Hey, well, I'm with you. 2.5 might be my play of the year. You factor in Kinnick on a game day. That should be 3 points. This Cyclones team, I like Rocco Brecht. I think he's building something there. He's looking pretty good as a sophomore. He handled a lot last year as a freshman, including the Iowa State game. Didn't handle that one as well, to say the least. But I do like what I'm seeing there, but just not as impressive of a week one performance as I was hoping for out of them. You know, their offense coordinator's coaching on the Rams now, so there is a little bit of a change there. They ran the ball really well last year. Couldn't really get it going on the ground. The running back sat out with some tweaks. I don't know how healthy he is or if they're just playing it very safe before the game. The last thing I would say, and this is a big one, two of their starting linebackers, Will McLaughlin and Caleb Bacon. Caleb Bacon, who's kind of the quarterback of their defense, are both out for this game. If anything, that maybe leans to Texas Pete in the run game. I can see Iowa just trying to wear them down, or Texas Pete's under with the run game. If Iowa finds success in the run game, what we saw last week is probably not going to be the same thing. They're probably not going to look to air it out. And that's where that maybe 2.5 can get a little sweaty if they're trying to, just play a ball control, ball dominant game and grind out a win. But I'm all in on the Hawks, 2.5. The biggest thing for Cade McNamara right now is confidence. In his post-game press conference, he talked about being healthy again for the first time. The first half, he was probably sitting in the locker room thinking, holy shit, are we going to do this again? Chisholm made a great note to us, said, there was a play where he ran for about 30 yards, got called back, but after that play, everything was different. He felt healthy out there. He said, this is the best I've felt in 2 years health-wise. And then from there, he started making moves in the pocket. He started trusting his body and slinging it downfield and trusting his receivers, including a true freshman who's making plays. It was a sight for sore eyes, and one where I think a lot of us were in the dumps after the first half, ready to throw in the white towel on the offense again. How quickly things can turn.
Yeah, dude, it is weird. Even if it is just after one game versus an FCS opponent, keep in mind, what was it, a year ago against South Dakota State? We were fucking begging for scraps. Getting safeties was our best way of putting points on the board. And, this year we're ranked 50th in the country. I don't know the last time we were ranked within the top 100 in the country as far as, points scored. I think a little bit to clean up on the offensive side of the ball in terms of penalties for Iowa. But all in all, yeah, I had a great talk with my buddy Ben Singer about that play, Jack. But then also, I think similarly, the play where Cade actually threw the ball and hit Connor Colby in the back of the head, back of the helmet. I think that might have woke Colby up a little bit. Offensive line just looked better throughout the second half as well. I think Seth Wallace kind of proved himself as, big locker room guy. Apparently,
Huge locker room guy.
I don't know what the fuck this guy was saying at halftime, but very different team walked out of the tunnel for that second half. So I am also for sure all the way in on the Hawkeyes. I think the best way for me to bet this, though, is not necessarily -2.5. I don't really like that number purely because Iowa looked great week one. Iowa State looked terrible. So if I'm going to bet this game, and I think it's going to go the way that I think it will go, I'm actually more so looking into Iowa alternate spreads so I can get some juice out of that squeeze. I'm looking upwards of -6.5, -7.5. Otherwise, you should be betting the Iowa State money line or focus on the totals, because is either Iowa's going to come out and dominate. They're going to do exactly what happened last week, where they kind of just wore you down, pounded the rock hard in that first half without Caleb Johnson. As soon as he stepped in the game, shit busted wide open. Amari Moulton is going to find his stride eventually, I'm sure, but Caleb Johnson he's the workhorse back. Yeah, RB1 certified after last week.
I was even looking at alternate 21-point spreads. That's how fucking confident I am going into this game. And that's how you get bit. That's how you get bit. But I'm ready to be bit. One other bet I have out there this week, and I just want to call this out. I actually have an Iowa State roommate, God bless his soul. But here's the bet: one entree, 2 sides, 1 dessert, crafted with love and care and a family-sized portion of the winner's choosing on a Thursday night football date to be set later in the month. Hawks versus Cyclones, straight up. So not only are we gambling with FanDuel, we're also gambling with the roommates with a little bit of a love and cared crafted dinner. So we'll see how that one turns out. If we take the L or if we take the W, I'll let you know what we end up eating that night.
I do want to reiterate, Iowa State brings back, granted, maybe not anymore with, Caleb Bacon and McLaughlin going down, but they were bringing back 21 starters from last year. So as long as no one else is getting hurt, as long as no one else is getting, busted by the state judiciary party for gambling on their own football games, this is a team that is very familiar with the University of Iowa. They're very familiar with Cade. A lot of the returning starters, both on offense and defense, like this is not going to be the same as it was last week. I think they're going to look way better than they did against North Dakota. They were definitely slow out of the gates, but I also know for a fact, like you can give a little bit of edge too, as far as home field advantage goes, right? But at the same time, I mean, we're like, what are we, 2.5, 3 hours apart driving? Like the whole state shows up to this game, whether it's at Jack Trice or whether it's at Kinnick. So I don't want to say completely
out, but
throw it out the window,
years.
but no. Yeah, I mean, I personally think if Iowa is able to just not turn the ball over, they win by 10 plus.
Love it. Okay, well, let's go from the hardest place in the Big Ten to play to the big house. Big noon kickoff. We got McConaughey going to give out some picks in the morning down in Ann Arbor. Michigan hosting Texas. I mean, this game is as much as we love Iowa State, but this is the prime rib of the weekend. A lot to learn about these two teams. I'd say more so for Michigan. What are we expecting this weekend on the field for Michigan versus Texas? Gosh, I mean, say what you will about however this game ends up, but you just gotta love the gumption of these programs for signing up for big boy football in September.
I love it, dude. Yeah, I mean, McConaughey is going to be at one game every weekend. He's hooking them all the way through and through. Guest picker, guest on the big noon kickoff with Joel Klatt and the boys. But I remember I first saw the line come out for Texas -7.5, and I was like, ooh, I feel like it might be too much. And then I really started to think about it. And in what world does Michigan cover a touchdown? Actually,
I don't know. I think Michigan really needs to figure out their identity.
I don't have one.
I wasn't able to watch the entire game last week. They run a 2-quarterback system with Davis Warren as the passing QB and Orji coming in to do what he does. Power runs,
Pretty
options,
sure Warren
that kind of thing.
I thought that Warren was just the outright QB1 and Orji just didn't win the job. And that in and of itself kind of speaks volumes. They might have brought him in for packages. I really didn't watch the game.
You're nailing it, Texas Pete. They're bringing him in for some different packages. They are trying to get a little freaky with Orji on the field, but
regardless, Davis Warren, very unimpressive stat line week 1 against Fresno State. /15 for 25, 118 yards, touchdown, and a pick. That's not going to get the job done against this Texas team secondary. Home field advantage, it's going to play here. I mean, any team coming into the big house, it's going to be tough. But when you're a team like Texas with college football playoff aspirations, you got to go in and execute. This is officially the first Texas Pete's Texas play of the week. We're laying the points, 7.5. Hook 'em.
I like it. I might be staying away. Just before I kick it to you, I mean, Donovan Edwards, 11 rushes for 27 yards last week against Fresno State. That can't happen.
No. Not behind that offensive line, or at least what they're supposed to be, right? I mean, what was the final score? 30-10?
Yeah.
7 of those points being a pick six. Offense put up 23 against Fresno State.
Back to big boy football too, and big games in September. With the 12-team playoff, I want to see way more of this, right? Neither of these teams really have a lot to lose in this game. I'm sure an L is going to hurt, but an L in September to a top 10 matchup isn't going to keep you out of a 12-team playoff. And if anything, it's just going to give your team a lot to build off of, win or lose as a head coach, right? So I hope to see more of this. And we can do it without having to, 10 years from now, have a super duper elite conference as like the SEC and Big Ten washes away and there's 18 teams left that play like each other. Just let's keep scheduling more of these games. Chisholm, did I get an official pick from you on this one?
I'm all in on the Horns, personally. I was going to say as well, though, if you're able to get one of those 5-point teasers, I think if you were to, tease the Horns down to the 2.5 number and then tease the over to get it from 42.5 to like 37.5, I think if this game doesn't get up to 38 points total, something's wrong with the world, with the University of Texas for sure. Unless Texas shuts them out 35-0. I don't think that's gonna happen necessarily. The only way that Michigan is gonna stay in this game is if they can find a way to get the run going early and spread the field with some play action and rely on Colson Loveland in the red zone to be able to deliver the dude's allegedly the number 1 tight end on a lot of the draft boards. I'll believe it when I see it. But
Loveland
yeah,
had
watch out for Will
90 of
Johnson
those
and
receiving
company.
yards too. So he was eating up a lot
87
of
yards,
those
8 catches.
From a viewer standpoint, this game's going to be won and lost in the trenches. And I think Texas we've talked about this repeatedly on the program. Texas has always had skill players, but now that they've been adding, a really strong D-line and O line to the fold, that's kind of what brought Texas back and why they weren't getting beat by the Kansas States and Iowa States consistently. It should be an awesome game. I'm fired up for it. High noon kickoff. Let's do it. Before we get to our next game, it's time to bring in our other sponsor for today's episode, Rally House. Rally House. Shop every team in town. Get ready for kickoff because Rally House has the game day gear you are looking for. Local stuff. It's your city. It's your house. It's Rally House. Whether you're in Iowa, you can get the Hawks and the Clones. Chicago, Cubs, Bears, all your sports teams needs. Whether it's still Horns down in Austin, Texas, they got you covered in the burnt orange hats, wearables, and accessory. Rally House, where a house meets your home. Thank you for Rally House for sponsoring today. A lot of great gear. I do love how locally oriented it is. You're not going to see the same thing with Rally House in Chicago as you're going to see down in Texas. They got I'm a big anti-Fanatics guy, right? Rally House is going to be carrying all the brands, your Champions, your Nikes, your Adidas that are putting out quality content for your schools. It's not going to be the cheap Fanatics shit. They're one of the few good ones left in this business that are trying to bring in local owners for a national brand. We love Rally House around here. Thank you for sponsoring today. All right. I think we're going to even jump to Oregon versus Boise State. I think this Oregon game was very interesting in week 1. Obviously, they did not show out or have their best performance, but Boise State, out of the Mountain West, was a team that some people circle as maybe a dark horse for the playoffs if they could find a way to win this game and pull it out and then kind of run the table in the Mountain West or maybe end up with one loss. What are the vibes out of Eugene, Oregon? To me, I have this circled as a Dan Lanning spot, but maybe there's more than meets the eye here with this Oregon team. I think a lot of people, myself included, penciled them in to maybe a college football playoff this year, just knowing kind of what they were building out there. And I had to take a step back after last week and reassess that notion.
Yeah. Big time. I mean, Gabriel came out and supposedly threw for 1 billion yards, but 1 billion points don't come out of that. It's kind of like, who gives a fuck, right? Like, if we're not putting points on the board, if we're not converting, throw it all in the trash, start over next year, do whatever you got to do. I know for a fact that Dan Lanning's going to have it figured out. Ashton Junty obviously had a phenomenal week 1, but I think this is a really interesting line being at 20. You're seeing sharp movement actually coming in on Boise State. We got 5 movements up to this point from when the line opened. I think it originally opened at 19.5. It's bouncing around a little bit there, but the other one is the total. Actually, I feel like a lot of people are really in on the over in this game being at 61.5 right now. Only 53% of the money from 33% of the bets. So you have a nice edge there as far as, dollar signs go. Vegas is wanting an under apparently, but not that bad because you got 3 different sharp movements that have pushed this line to where it is as well, moving the over. So I think you could even sit on those 2 lines, see if you can get to that 20.5, maybe 21. I would be shocked if this got all the way to 21 and was a true 3-score line, but I think you could keep a very close eye on the total and potentially be able to sneak in something for the under. I think it'll get gritty as it goes to the wire.
Yeah, Gary Bryant Jr. is coming back this week for Oregon, one of their leading receivers. Last week against Idaho, they led in, you mentioned it, but just to reiterate, they led in first downs 31-10, yards 487 to 217, dominated time possession. Just a weird all-around wonky effort. It felt like they kind of came out a little stale, a little quiet. But with all that said, this is why I'm backing Oregon. I had them at 19.5. It sounds like they're moving to 20. It really doesn't fucking matter to me. This just feels like a team that everything I was believing in preseason and all I was reading and researching is true. It's a team that comes out and just absolutely lays the hammer down this week. We know Dan Lanning is a great motivator, solid coach. He comes from the Kirby Smart coaching tree, a guy that will get up in their ass and tell them, hey, it's time to make a statement. Last year that game was obviously Colorado. They don't really have one of those games on the schedule this year. Oregon State next week, but Oregon State's taking a step back now that they're in the Pac-2 or the 2-pack. And so that's why this just feels like a Dylan Gabriel, Oregon. I mean, the Heisman bookies still have Dylan Gabriel as the leading favorite for the Heisman Trophy. So they're still thinking that he's going to end up with a great season, a lot of big stats. All in on Oregon. It's more just a field play than anything. Respect Boise State and what Jonty's got out there, but we're good. We're riding Ducks.
Nice. I got a game where I'm doubling the field play sentiment on. Georgia Tech in Syracuse this week. 2.5. I think it's 3 points now. A lot of buzz, no pun intended, around Georgia Tech. I'm going to be fading that. Going over to Syracuse +3. Syracuse defense, they didn't cover last week. I think it was 17 points against Ohio University. Bobcats, that is. They only allowed 1 touchdown on 5 trips to the red zone for OU. Was doing a little bit of research into it. Saw that there's a sizable advantage on the wide receiver defensive back combination. That is, Syracuse's DBs are like 6'3" and 6'1" versus these small Georgia Tech receivers. I like that play, not to mention it's a sneaky color matchup. Yellow Jackets, orange.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how often you see that. You got to love it. NFL color rush, that's what's coming to my mind. Not to mention Ohio State transfer, Kyle Honda McCord, tearing it up week 1, slashing 27 for 39, 354 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think a lot of sharps are going to be coming on in this matchup. Home dogs. Give me Syracuse +3 as my official pick. Might sprinkle a little something on the money line.
I like it. This is the first time the Yellow Jackets have been ranked since 2015. Maybe that's getting to their head a little bit. They're looking at all the articles. They're saying, "Damn, we just crushed in Dublin. We're rolling." This is where the orange comes in. I like it, Texas State.
Yeah, this isn't the Georgia Tech miracle season. That's over. Everyone's done writing about them. They've written all their content. There's nothing more they can do.
Yeah, I would agree, except for the fact that beating Syracuse is not part of a Cinderella or a miracle script by any means. This is a team, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a team that just gave up over 200 yards on 16 rushes by a Northwestern transfer, currently playing for the Ohio Bobcats. Not only that, but they just actually lost their star linebacker. God, what the hell is his name? I wrote it down around here somewhere. Marlowe something, right? I mean,
Marlowe's
I
not in any
lost
miracle season
myself
either, so we don't need to.
Marlowe Wax. Marlowe Wax. That's a phenomenal football name. But dude, if you can get Tech at -2.5, I personally love that. Otherwise, if you don't want to play around with the -3, the -2.5, whatever, just take a money line. They're going to win this game. Defense is it's a toss up. Who gives a shit? But they're obviously able to bring enough pressure on quarterbacks. You watched them do that in Dublin. They pretty much did the exact same game plan last week and executed it to perfection. But outside of all of that, Haynes King being a dual threat quarterback is exactly what this team needs in order to spread the ball around, make sure that they're continuing to pound the rock. I personally think that because of that injury to, I believe, the green dot wear for Syracuse, but then on top of that, it's like, I mean, who the fuck else is going to be stepping up defensively when you're already giving up 200 plus on 16 rushes to a single man? And I don't really know what else to say other than we know Tech runs the ball. Under could be a fun spot here in this game, but worked out for me pretty well last week going up against Fultz with Notre Dame X3. So I guess I'm going to do the same thing here. No fault to Texas Pete at all, but I'm feeling the buzz. I'm feeling the hype.
He's feeling the buzz. He's buzzed.
I'll take Tech.
All right, Cap is going to be
nice.
Love the
Money line.
head-to-head.
We'll see what it looks like come game time. Partially because I really need Tech to pull it together so that Notre Dame's strength of schedule goes up just a little bit.
Walt Chisholm's going to catch a buzz. Texas Pete's going to ride the wave with a fresh glass of orange juice. We'll see what happens this weekend. Walt Chisholm, let's kick it out to Salt Lake City. Utah Ute and Cam Rising hosting Baylor University. Mr. Muscle, tell us about it.
Before I dive in, Texas Pete, I feel like you have a good judge of character as a whole. Can I get your thoughts on journeyman Cam Rising for the Utes?
I don't know if you guys saw it going around Twitter this week. Did you guys see that nasty picture of him? This dude, I don't know if he's been living in Utah too long or something like that, but with the long, greasy hair, looks like a combination of a greasy Post Malone meets like an avid rock climber that just won't stop talking your ear off about it. I mean, it's a good thing he could throw the pigskin 70 yards because if not, I mean, this guy would be unbearable to leech onto your ear at the bars. Other than that, I mean, this guy needs to stay healthy. He had a pretty good performance week one. Am I correct in saying that? Can't say I watched Utah this week. Yeah.
Five tutties. Yeah.
I personally don't have any action on this game, but let's officially put Cam Rising on a GoFundMe for Haircut Watch because I'm not liking what I'm seeing out of him.
The fact that his name is Cam Rising, like Cam is rising. I love this guy.
Rising what?
He
Third year senior? How long has he been around, man?
He's 25.
Seventh year.
He's 25. If he goes into any of the dorm rooms, he's gonna get hit with a case. But with that said, I think he's got a lot of leadership. He does things the right way, and maybe he's like Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Aaron Rodgers circa Danica Patrick. Maybe he's into little gemstones, little rocks, things that help his chakra, his aura. That's okay. That's okay. When Cam is rising, you'll know it. And he has another great tight-end connection this year. A flashback to Dalton Kincaid for the Utah Utes. This is a team I've had circled all year as a college football playoff team. I don't have a play on this one against Baylor. I think you do, Chisholm.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth on this one. I haven't officially locked one in. I'm debating just taking the over straight up. Reason for that being, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I've really done my best to avoid anything to do with the University of Baylor. So taking a look into that football team for the first time since Robert Griffin III played, they got a Toledo transfer at quarterback, Shaquan Finn, inspiring a little bit of offense for them, quelling, fun word there, big vocab guy over here, but quelling any worries that the Waco faithful may have had. He had 3 touchdowns last week, taking over a team for the first time coming out of the MAC, going into the Big 12. It's always, how are they going to do? How are they going to look in that, shade of green? But I think the biggest thing for me is, to Texas Pete's point, Cam Rising exists. 5 touchdowns from him last week. His return and the return of Brant Keithy, however you say his last name, tight end there, right? Baby Kincaid. I don't know whatever you want to call it, but I think advanced numbers are definitely docking this number a little bit just because of some of the regression later on in the year that Utah's offense had without Cam, without Brant Kuithe, fuck him, who cares? I think the biggest thing for me, though, in this game is that they're back. And they're playing a Big 12 defense. And so trying to figure out if I want to go team total over or just straight up over in general. We'll figure that out here probably within the next 24 hours or so. So stay tuned on the Twitter.
Yep. Keep an eye out, Red Money Burner. You might be tuning in currently through Red Money Burner. We'll put the picks out post game. I will say, Cam Rising Senior, Rising Super Senior,
Rising Sun.
criminology major back in 2021. What is the deal with athletes and criminology majors? We need to get one on the show that did major in criminology, because it's like one in every third guy just wants to either become a lawyer or solve crimes.
You think that they just study by listening to true crime pods? And so that's why they chose that as their major. Could be a big brain move, maybe, potentially.
You know, I don't know. That's too big of a brain for me. I'll say that. That one had me stupid. All right. Let's see.
Can I
Yeah.
take it over to
Jump-
one of my personal favorite
Just jump in there,
games?
Caption, please.
So this is actually a Friday kickoff.
Nice.
We're going, just a hop, skip, and a jump from Turner's morning commute of the Bean.
Mm-hmm.
We're smelling Lake Michigan, not loving what we're smelling, but the mist is going to be hitting our faces. The wind will definitely be hitting our faces. I'm talking Northwestern and Duke. Folks, if you enjoyed the Iowa State game last year, you're going to love this one. We got a total of 37, Northwestern favored by 2.5 at home, and they're playing on the Temp Field. So for those of you who don't know, Ryan Field getting a full-blown remodeled and has tons of money into this thing. I think upwards of $3 to $4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. We're talking complex, people, complexes. So we're at Martin Stadium. It is right on the shores of Lake Michigan. The wind is whistling. If any of you have ever been to Wrigley Field, that's even further away, and that shit's still blustering, right towards home plate. So what are we looking at? The under, for sure. So 37.5 is where it currently sits. Sharps and models are both supporting just going ahead and taking that under, mainly because it's going to be brutal to pass. You're going to have to whip that shit around. So good luck trying to yuck it down the field. But Northwestern's also got a pretty solid defense. And I think there's just going to be a shit ton of unders whenever they're at home this season in general. So keep that in mind for future pods. But Miami, Ohio, 19 total points between Northwestern and Miami, Ohio last week. Duke, in their first game last week, new head coach Manny Diaz brought the boys out, and they put up 26 points against Elon, who they were 24.5 point favorites against. So these are two low scoring teams. You got Malik Murphy, I believe his name is, transfer at University of Texas, kind of at the helm for the Blue Devils. I don't think they're able to get it done in order to put points up, and I also don't think they're going to be able to win this one. So I'm also liking Northwestern -2.5. They got all of their big boys coming back on the D-line, and I think that's going to shut the run game down more than most. But then also the weather is going to be a little shite. So if you're talking muck games, what better conference to go all in on other than the MAC than the Big Ten if we're mucking?
I like it. This is a game I will probably not be watching on Friday, and I'm sure a lot of the fans of Duke and Northwestern won't be watching either, because they all got their heads so far up their asses.
Yeah, this is just an all-time NBA guy game. You know what I'm saying? Duke NBA, Northwestern NBA. These guys are going to be fired up. Careful when you walk around your local consulting and or private equity firm this week, because they're going to be throwing some pretty large wages around, I'd imagine.
Well, let's go to a game that's located in Lincoln, Nebraska. This
There
might
we
be my
go.
favorite game of the week, and I think this is the last game we're probably going to hit a full preview on, and then we can just kind of ring around the rosy with some quick hitters on any remaining plays we have. Colorado, Nebraska last year was one of my favorite games of the season. It was right on the onset of the Colorado hype, and this game kind of took it over the crescendo. You know, they had the TCU game, Colorado State, and then here they kind of cemented it with Nebraska. I remember this game vividly because I was on Colorado, and if you watched any of Nebraska last year, it was just a comedy of errors. They could not help themselves from losing this game with a litany of unforced turnovers and things that just did not need to happen. And this year, maybe it's a new year. Maybe Raiola is Mahomes 2.0. He looked really good in week 1. And Adam, you know, a lot of the things he looked good at was also what he didn't do. He has all the talent in the world. We know he can make big throws, but as a true freshman with that amount of talent, how willing is he going to be able to sit back and throw the ball away or just take a sack? And those are things that he looked like he was doing. He was very efficient with his passing. He wasn't always looking for the long ball. He was dropping the ball off as well. It's a scary sight. As an Iowa fan, as a Nebraska hater, I don't love to see it, right? But he looks confident and he looks good. Colorado, on the other hand, you know, it's Deion. And I think a lot of the same issues that plagued them last year are going to come through again this year. Shedeur, we all know, first-round draft pick talent. Travis Hunter, first-round draft pick talent. Those two guys connected for 3 touchdowns. And it looks good when it works, but it still feels like they have a lot of holes throughout the rest of their roster that are going to prevent them from reaching who they want to be this year as a team. I'm still projecting seeing them out as maybe more like a 6-win team.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I think the biggest thing that Raiola does for Nebraska is that he makes their grittiness like an actual strength. Before, it was just how they had to play football. They didn't really have a quarterback at all. Any passes they were really completing were just kind of checkdowns, or it was just lobbing it up and hoping the receiver would make a play. But I feel really, really good about the direction of the program under Matt Rule. I think Rule is just the perfect guy for the job.
He looks like he loves run-ins. That's step 1.
Step 1, can this guy put down some runs? Check. Step 2, does he look like he's going there right now? Because that's how you just identify a Nebraska native. I don't know. I think the biggest thing is Nebraska's defense, right? They have one.
Yeah.
They have a defense. We just watched Colorado almost lose the fucking game to NDSU because, God forbid, we don't give Shedeur one more opportunity to throw a 50-yard bomb for no goddamn reason, other than maybe he wins the Heisman. Fuck him. I can't stand this team at times. They have so much talent and they're so improperly coached. They lack so much discipline. And if it wasn't, I cannot stand Shiloh Sanders. The guy is so terrified of contact for all of the shit that he talks, the swagger that he supposedly has, that Shedeur has. Like, I don't know where Shiloh gets off, but I don't think I saw him make a single physical play where he embraced contact, where the runner was also embracing contact, i.e. they were in bounds or the play was still live and they weren't down yet. Like, this guy's just a prick. He's not good enough at the sport of football, behave the way that he does. It infuriates me. But outside of that,
and real quick on the Shiloh point, I saw somebody say that they have him playing an Ed Reed role on this defense, but the only problem is he's not Ed Reed.
No, he's fucking the furthest thing from it. Maybe he's William Gay. Like, I don't think I couldn't even name you another defensive back. Artie Burns, maybe, that was just terrified to hit someone. But God forbid, take 2 steps out of bounds and Shiloh's right on top of you. Nebraska is going to win this game because of the grit. A better version of North Dakota State. They're at home. A Memorial Stadium, lest we forget, is still a terrifying place to play, especially when Nebraska is in a situation like they're in right now.
Yeah.
They haven't really been here in a while, but they're here now. So embrace it, figure it the fuck out, do whatever you got to do. But if you're in the Big Ten, like, you just got to be fully aware that Nebraska is actually like going to be a contender. Maybe not this year, but certainly next year and the next few years into the future if Raiola continues to play the way that he looked in his very, very first game. If he improves at all, like, watch out.
Well, with all that said, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm taking Nebraska at -7.5 in this game at home. I mentioned those holes that Colorado has. It feels like not only is Nebraska going to be willing to take them to the salt mines a little bit, but they're also going to be dicing up that secondary of Colorado as well. I would also possibly like to play on the over here. Probably going to think about that one a little bit and get back to you on the rip money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton left. Just a couple of fun ones.
Yeah, rapid fire. Let's go 1-1-1, and then we'll just go until we're out, which will probably leave you the last man standing, Adam.
That's how she goes. Tex P, what are you looking at?
I got
do
a
you got?
fun one.
Any fun ones?
2 words. War Eagle, alt spread. Cal coming in town in Auburn. No one from the University of California has ever stepped foot in the state of Alabama, nor Auburn, nor Opelika. 13.5 point spread. I'm going to hammer that for half of the bill that I paid last weekend on a bachelor party. Probably going to get fun, have a few drinks on Saturday, and throw in a nasty alt line on that, probably up to like 23.5 or something. But locking in 13.5 on the.
I love it. Texas Pete, if you weren't listening last week, went down to Harbor Town. Got a little golfing in. We said we were going to ask him about it on the show. Now is that time. How was the golf game, Texas Pete? End of a season, end of an era. The holiday weekend, taking into fall golf. But this was the rest in peace summer golf. You did it right, dude. You went down played some beautiful courses down there.
Yeah, it was nice. I stayed in Hilton Head for the weekend, played a couple Pete Dye courses, played an Arnold Palmer course. For Town Golf Links, they make it look so much easier on tour. It's actually crazy. Tight fairways, can't take driver off tee on a lot of them. You got 185 yards going into a lot of these par 4s. Tough to hold postage stamp size greens. Was definitely a tester. A couple of the shots I just laughed about. All in all, great time. Great golf down there too. Had an absolute blast. Probably wouldn't play Harbor Town again on my own dime, but that's what Auburn -13.5 is for.
When you're playing a hard course like that, right? You just hope that the beauty and the niceness equally weighs out however much you're just getting your shit kicked in. When you say it on the Venn diagram of like hot and crazy, how about like the hard to beautiful Venn diagram? Where would you put it? Or I guess it'd be a graph.
Yeah, it was probably equally parts hard and beautiful. It wasn't anything crazy. Like, you're not losing balls. There's not a ton of water. There's not any nasty carries you have to get through. The worst part about it is the no-see-ums. You guys familiar with those? No-see-um bugs?
Oh yeah, like little gnats.
So they're little gnats, yeah. I live in North Carolina. Fortunately, we don't have them, so I'm probably not close enough to the water. But I get to the range. We had an early tee time, 8 in the morning or something like that. And I just see all these gnats buzzing around me. And I don't know if it was me drinking heavily the night before, but like I started like itching or something like that. So they were biting me and I didn't know what they were at the time. So I'm at the range for like 5-10 minutes warming up. And, 5-10 minutes in, I'm looking around. Every single person on the range is swatting their legs. They're all over me. I still got about 85, not an exaggeration, bug bites on me that are just absolutely tearing me up. Yeah, it was brutal. So had to go in the pro shop, buy the $24 bug spray. They get you good there. But that was my first battle with the no-see-ums. Can't say I'm looking forward to seeing them again. That's a price you got to pay if you want to play these beautiful courses.
No-see-ums, but boy,
No-see-ums.
I can feel them. I got 20 on my foot. We'll save that conversation for another day. I thought I was gonna be the most bitten up guy here, but you'll take the cake this week, Texas Pete. All right, Old Chisholm.
This is going to be a fun one, in my opinion, is Arkansas going to Stillwater. They're going to be at Okie State. Gundy, once again, the guy just knows how to deliver, but another guy that will never, in my opinion, get enough love, Sam Pittman of the Arkansas Razorbacks. He just likes a cold beer, right? One of my favorite quotes. What's your favorite kind of beer, Sam? Cold beer. Back to you, Ollie. Hogs coming in. They are 7.5 point underdogs. Over or the total, I should say, is 62.5. I'm feeling pretty good about taking the Hogs 7.5 and leaning the under. Main reason being, I think Hogs defense, whether they call the pigs or not, whether they're at home or not, I think the defense will be the difference in this one. It's SEC going up against the Big 12. Tale as old as time. It's kind of similar to North Carolina and Minnesota last week. These are two teams that just want to run the damn ball. Ollie, 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 right? We're watching this guy try to make his bid as a running back for the Heisman out of Okie State. Meanwhile, the entirety of this Arkansas Razorbacks offense, namely the quarterback, Taylon Green, came out last week, over 200 passing yards, almost 100 rushing yards, on top of his RB1 putting up, I think, 114. True dual threat. The game's going to be moving. Clock is going to be moving. It is the more important feature here. So I think Hogs plus 7.5 is enough points for me to feel very comfortable with the cover. But then also pairing that with the under of 62.5, I feel like this is just going to be a fun one. Keep an eye out for the boys and fun, just two fun colleges in general.
I like it. I like it a lot. Speaking about the Razorbacks and cold beer, I was at volunteering at the Champions Tour. You know, you get kind of to be on the driver where the tee box. There we go. And John Daly comes up and he's hitting. Somebody goes, "Hey, John, how do you like Iowa?" You just go, "Beer's cold." That was it. That was all. I was like, all right, cool. Sounds good. John Daly, real drinker. All right, we're gonna go to Kansas versus Illinois, over 55.5. Cool Nicky's gone at Kansas, but that doesn't mean the train's stopping. They looked really good offensively last week. Daniels was doing his thing. They're moving the ball on the ground. This team, similar to Nebraska, Colorado, played in week 2 or 3 last year, and that game was 65 points in total. And that last year's team for Illinois was not very good. I don't think Kansas's defense is that much more improved. I do have a lot of belief in their offense. The Illinois QB, Luke Altmaier, threw for 4 touchdowns last week against Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois is no real powerhouse, but still 4 touchdowns. I mean, Caden Fegan ran for over 100 yards, scored a touchdown. They looked good, crisp offensively. I'm taking the over of 55.5. The only thing that scares me a little bit is if this game gets a little bit too ground heavy and that clock starts churning. But I think both these teams are willing and able to hit a couple big ones on the ground, too. It's not just going to be 3 yards in a pile of dust. Kansas especially does a great job of running this direction and spreading you out the runs and busting open big plays. 55.5 in the Kansas-Illinois game. Illinois at home sold out. One of the first sold out games in a couple years, I believe. They're actually lost their last 6 games that they've sold out at Illinois. So if you're looking for maybe a little road win for Kansas, Illinois does not perform well under the bright lights of their home stadium. All right, Texas, you're back up.
That's all I got for my plays of the week. You guys got any other cheeky ones?
Chisholm,
I got a couple.
I'm clean out too, so the floor is yours, big boy.
I'll run through them. Kansas is going to be on my card as well. I know we touched on them last week. Boys came out, put up 48. That's just a fun offense. 5.5, I think, is more than doable. So just go ahead and lay it. Feel good about it. Don't worry about it. Trust the big boys over at the Red Money Pod.
I'm not worrying.
This one is, in my opinion, we want to talk about fun plays, right? This is kind of just right there. Let's talk about LB3. I'm all in. I think this Missouri Tiger offense is just going to be disgustingly fun to watch, not only this year, but ideally for years to come if they can continue just finding that one guy, right, that's willing to play at a school that's not competitive in the SEC, but is just, give him all the love, give him all the brand recognition. He wants it. He needs it. I think they exceeded expectations big time. Missouri did on Saturday. They did face Murray State, FCS. Their former coordinator, Blake Baker, currently at LSU, also 0-1. They had 5 starters that returned on defense. And I think a lot of sports books would have looked at Missouri and just been like, maybe we'll see. And they actually ended up yielding some points to the opponent. But instead, they just threw a fucking shutout. They gave up 85 yards across the span of 50 total plays by Murray State. The only weakness that this defense would have on paper is their secondary, but have no fear. Buffalo's passing attack is probably top 25 worst in the country. going into this year. And on top of that, Buffalo's pass defense in their own right is in, I would say, probably the bottom 40. So Brady Cook, Luther Burden III, have yourselves a goddamn day. Give me Missouri minus 34.5. Have fun with that one.
Love it.
Enjoy it.
Love it. Is that all we got? Or
Outside of that,
oh, yeah, I was going to say recap some picks for the week.
just point blank, Texas Tech at Washington State is another one that I personally will be tuning into. I haven't done as much research as I need to in order to make an educated pick here, but the line itself is at 1.5. That's a fun line,
Online.
right?
Yeah,
Vegas thinks it'll be close.
Yeah.
Maybe we should tune in.
I might.
If you had to just, with minimal knowledge on both of those teams, gun to your head, are you going guns up, Red Raiders, or, are we talking coup?
I mean, if you want to hear a good line, I think if you got the gun to your head, you prefer that the guns go up.
Bang. Red Raiders, Raider Rash. I think I would agree.
Before
They
we
got a
run through-
mean running back.
Before we run through our picks, Adam, why don't you just go ahead? What does your shirt say?
Well, something for the folks at home who are unaware, Jack and I are not only University of Iowa alumni, not only Connelly Catholic Maroon alumni, but we are St. Francis of Assisi Sun alumni. We, similar to Caitlin Clark, we're 3 for 3. We absolutely nailed this one. And so if you didn't know, now you know. If you break it, you own it. That's what the shirt says.
Triple-double tonight, fever clench, playoffs. Let's bring a little WNBA action into your college football life. I mean, come on. It's so
Let's go
fun.
Fever.
One thing I picked up over Labor Day weekend, spending time with different people, different families, good get-togethers. Nothing's funnier than watching just like an older man unironically get into WNBA basketball. It's just, all of a sudden, you notice they're watching a game that's not even Caitlin Clark oriented. You're like, holy shit, it's happening. It really, holy cow. All right, I can go ahead and just rip mine real quick. Tennessee over in points, 34.5. Iowa minus 2.5 play of the year. Also got a homemade dinner on that one too. As previously mentioned, Oregon minus 19.5. Dan Lanning spot, bounce back spot. This is a 25-point line spot if you believe everything that you think about Oregon going into the year. But Kansas versus Illinois over 55.5. Both these teams are hopefully going to break out some big plays. And then Nebraska minus 7.5. Too many holes in that Colorado defense. Raiola, believe the hype.
All right. Recapping my picks for the week. Before I get into it, for the Rent Money Pod faithful out there, it is no surprise to you that Texas Pete has yet to find his way on the scoreboard. So,
No surprise.
it's a little fun here. I will double down on at 321 Knowles sentiment. If one of my 6 plays doesn't hit this week, I will eat dog shit out of a red Solo cup live this time next week. So, the 6 picks that'll save me here are Texas minus 7.5 in the Big House, which is also the first Texas Pete's Texas play of the week. Tennessee minus 7.5 versus NC State. Syracuse plus 3 at home versus Georgia Tech. The Iowa Hawkeyes minus 2.5 and under 35.5 versus Iowa State. And then Auburn minus 13.5 at home versus Cal.
Texas
Fuck it.
Pete, you're putting a lot on the line here for the
Fuck
Rent
it.
Money podcast.
Not worried. Not
Yeah.
worried.
Episode 3. He's ready.
I mean, statistically speaking, what are the odds here? You got, I would say they're less than 1%, but since you're the one doing the picking, we'll bump that to 5.
That's rude. But
If you guys tune
Empirical
in
data.
next week this time and you see there's only 2 hosts on here, just know I went ghost with my boy at 321 Null. Just something to keep
Turns
an eye
out
out
you're
for.
3, 2, 1 no the whole time.
Might be.
You're just addicted to eating poop bets.
All right, Chisholm,
All
wrap
right.
it up for us.
Chisholm.
apologies. Casually ripping a little fantasy draft for Sage, who was on a flight on the side here. Going to my picks for the week. I'll go in order of games being played. I'm not taking them, but BYU and SMU, Pony Express is back, just so you know. Duke, Northwestern, we're on Northwestern minus 2.5. We're taking the under of 37.5 in that one. Windy City winds below. Texas and Michigan, I am also on the horns. Definitely going to make sure to have one of those plays be bought down to 6.5, and then I'll probably take the other one as is, whatever the market is yielding. I just want to make sure that if it's a touchdown win, we're covered, we're good to go. I am not necessarily fading Texas Pete because I did make this pick for him, but I will be taking Georgia Tech. We are buzzing -2.5 or better. If we can't get that, we're taking the money line, play with the market yields. Make sure that you're getting out there and you're shopping for lines and books and the like. We are also on Arkansas +7.5 on the road, leaning the under. I will let you guys know via Twitter. I guess it's called X now. We're on it right now. We're live. We're here. We're doing it. Whether or not we're locking in that under of 62.5, but for sure on the Hogs +7.5. We're just going to go ahead and say fuck it and do it live. Give me the over of 52.5 in the Baylor-Utah matchup. And then while we're at it, just whatever the number is on Utah's team total, give me the over on that too. Iowa State and Iowa, the Mecca, we'll throw the -2.5, but we're also going to be looking for that alternate spread upwards of -6.5, potentially even -9.5, depending on the juice. We'll see how she looks, try to give her a squeeze. I will be also riding with runner back Senor Jones. We're going rock chalk -5.5 at Illinois. One of the fun plays, don't put the whole balance on this, but whatever free play you got, feel free to toss it on Missouri -34 hosting Buffalo. We're on the Volunteers -7.5 hammering. We're gonna go ahead and add the Nebraska Cornhuskers to that as well. I'm all in on Raiola and what the boys are cooking over there. And
Chisholm, we
I
got to
think
keep
that sums it up for me, bud.
We got to keep track of our Doble bets this year. Historically, when Chisholm and I come to our own conclusion on the same team, it's been very profitable, very much a winning combination. Maybe, I don't think it's happened yet. We'll get 3 for 3 with Texas Pete, running back Jones, and Old Chisholm all aligned, kind of like Cam Rising's chakra. We'll send out the bat signal when that does happen. Well, hey, before we give the floor to these two guys and get out of here, NFL football starts tomorrow night. Everybody just give me a quick, who's your Super Bowl pick this year? On the spot. No prep.
Niners. Why would I not say the Chiefs?
Niners. I'm taking the Chiefs. Okay, that was boring. Sleeper.
Cincinnati Bengals.
I like it. I think you got to go AFC. We're going to go Texans.
Yeah, Texans are better. Bengals lost a lot on defense now that I think about it. Go ahead and toss them out. I think my sleeper to lose the AFC North is probably the Bengals. Give me the Ravens. I'll go Baltimore Ravens sleeper to win it all.
A sleeper value, long odds. Texas Pete loves his Cowboys.
You can't win the big one until you've won the big one, right? So that's what the Cowboys are looking to do this year. Hey, well, thank you for listening in. We appreciate it. We love our sponsors, Dude Wipes and Rally House. Appreciate them for supporting us in the episode today. We had Texas Pete, Old Chisholm, Run It Back Jones, week 2 on the way. It's going to be a dandy of a year, folks. We're just getting started. You'll see us again live next week at 7 to 7:30 Central Time, 8 to 8:30 Eastern, live on Twitter. You can listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, you can tune in. Check out the Pop Off Podcast Network in general, the feed. We're going to have some more NFL content coming out Thursdays and Sundays. But don't forget your Red Money Boys either. Give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Red Money Burner. Chisholm, Texas Pete, floor is yours for any parting thoughts.
I really hope I don't have to eat dog shit out of a solo cup. Instantly regretted it.
Don't bury the lead.
Instantly regretted it. Not looking forward to it. Please, please, please let me get on the scoreboard. Just need to go 1 for 6. One of them, please. Statistically almost impossible when you're taking the even money lines. Just pray for me. That's all.
Do you have a dog in mind?
I got a dog. I got a dog here.
Could ruin your guys' relationship.
Not sure if we've crossed that threshold before. We haven't, as a matter of fact, and I don't necessarily think I want to, but for the Rent Money Pod faithful, I'll do what it takes.
Poop dollar. We'll see. I hope to God I don't have to be a part of witnessing that. I'd rather watch Archduke Franz Ferdinand take one of the back of the dome, but that's just me personally. But yeah, folks, week 2 feels like week 3, but it ain't. We covered that one already right off the rip. From all the good folks at the Pop Off Pod Network, don't forget to check us out on our fastest growing social media platform, TikTok. You might have heard of it before. Tell your local congressman, senator, whoever the hell you care about within the United States government, don't ban this. There's some incredible shit on here. I learn a lot, I laugh a lot, and sometimes I cry. This app truly gives me the Jim Valvano experience. TikTok. Check it out. Outside of that, not an ad read, by the way. I'm not doing an ad read for TikTok. They got to pay us for that shit. And if you guys follow us, maybe they will. But outside of all that, we got a lot of plays, a lot of momentum on my side. Texas Pete, I know you got a lot of grit, guts, glory. Hopefully those guts aren't filled with dog shit this time next week. Let's go ahead and let's tie a bow on this thing. What do you guys say? We're going to get the hell out of here, but before we do, make sure to tell your bookie that we say hi.